Hello, my fellow fantasy book lovers, and welcome to the second video on the 2023 Goodreads Awards. In today's video, I will be talking about round 2, which runs from November 28th until December 3rd. I'm personally recording this video on November 29th, and yesterday on the 28th, I actually already placed my votes on my personal favorite books. Now, before I get into the final round of nominees, I want to quickly address that there is a lot of hate going around about the Goodreads Awards, which I do and don't get. I do get it from a certain perspective where it's not always fair, it's not always clear which book is selected and why they are selected. There isn't like a pre-round, it isn't like... The Goodreads Awards aren't fully transparent on how people, or how books more specifically, are nominated to be part of these awards. And then there's also a lot of people who generally don't like Goodreads, which I get. I personally think it's a very good system for me personally. For me personally, the Goodreads Awards have been how last year I discovered more books that I wanted to read this year. And this year it's exactly the same. It's a good basis for me to look at books that I haven't read yet, that are popular and that I might want to have a look at, because some of the books I wouldn't have discovered if it weren't for these Goodreads Awards. So now let's get into the 3 categories in which I personally have read books, and in the meantime I have a small update on the first category, because in the Romantasy category I actually read Assistant to the Villain, which I thoroughly enjoyed. However, I did only give it a 3 out of 5 stars, so it has not become my vote. So the final round of nominees in the Romantasy category are Throne of the Fallen, Assistant to the Villain, The Hurricane Wars, Zodiac Academy, The Hanging City, The Jasad Heir, Fourth Wing, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, Fire in the Flesh, and A Soul of Ash and Blood. And I predict that Fourth Wing is going to win and dominate in this category. I personally also voted for it. Up next, let's have a look at the Best Fantasy Final Round nominees: Hellbent, Bookshops and Bone Dust, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, The Fragile Threads of Power, Tress of the Emerald Sea, Starling House, A Day of Fallen Night, Swordcatcher, The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi, and The Unmaking of June Farrow. Now, do know that every time you refresh the page, the order in which you will see the books is slightly different, so this order might not be the order that you see them in. I personally have read 1, 2, 3 of these books, Bookshops and Bone Dust, which got my vote, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and A Day of Fallen Night. I have now behind me, somewhere over there, my Illumicrate edition of Starling House, so I will definitely be reading that as well. And my partner has actually been reading V.E. Schwab and he really loves it. And I also have Cassandra Clare Swordcatcher somewhere in my bookcase, so I will read those for sure. I personally voted for Bookshops and Bone Dust. However, I'm not sure if that's the one that's going to win. I hope it does, because I personally felt like Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust have been such a current of fresh air into the fantasy genre, so I personally think it deserves to win. And finally, category 3 that I've personally read books in is the Best Young Adult Fantasy and Science Fiction. And for these final round nominees, we have Chain of Thorns, These Infinite Threads, Fall Heart Huntsman, The Stolen Heir, What the River Knows, A Study in Drowning, A Curse for True Love, Foxglove, Divine Rivals, and Powerless. And of these books, I've actually only read one of them, which is Divine Rivals, which is also my vote. I was actually blown away by how good this book was. I'm sorry if the lighting has changed. The sun has suddenly decided to show its brightness to us. Yay, Belgium. And there's 2 books that I actually own that I haven't read yet, which are The Stolen Heir by Holly Black and Powerless. I actually bought Powerless just recently on a trip very cheaply in like a pound bookstore. I paid £3 for it, which is like ridiculously cheap. So I personally hope that Divine Rivals will win, because it's a book that I really enjoyed. However, there might be better books in this category. I honestly don't know. So for those of you who use Goodreads who want to place their votes, know that voting closes on December 3rd, which is only in a few days. So if you haven't cast your vote yet, I would highly recommend doing so. And then the winners will be announced on December 7th. I'm pretty sure that Fourth Wing is going to win in the Romantasy category. The other two I'm not super certain about because I really haven't been into the books that are into the category that much, or I haven't read a bunch of them, so it's harder for me to like make a good opinion on them. Let me know in the comment section down below if you voted, and if yes, on which book you have voted, and if not, what other books do you think would have deserved to be in the categories. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon with a new video. Bye!